Welcome to the Wild Enthusiasm for Living podcast. I am your host, Dr. Melissa Mann. Join me for conversations about possibilities and tools for having more joy, more play, and way more of you. What would it be like to wake up every day with a wild enthusiasm for living? Hello and welcome to the Wild Enthusiasm for Living podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Mann, and today we will be talking about cord cutting. So share this with a friend who needs to release old feelings or resentments, and you know it's time for them to cut some cords. So this is a topic that I love. And it's something I've been getting into a lot more, probably in the last 6 months or so. I had heard of it before and I'd done some cord cutting work myself, like through my own personal development work. And I read the book Energy Strands by Denise Lynn, which I absolutely love and highly recommend. And I got a lot of this information from there. So, of course, I want to give her credit. And I've also used these techniques with a lot of clients at this point and friends, and I use them on myself all the time. And it's something that I wish I would have had in my tool belt a really long time ago. So for a long time, I talked about this tool of who does this belong to, or the acknowledgement that all of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions aren't necessarily ours. And a lot of times, because we pick up on the energy in an environment, we think that everything we think and feel belong to us. But in reality, they might belong to your best friend. They might belong to someone in your family. They might belong to your neighbor or someone on the other side of the world, because we are always picking up on energy. What I didn't realize is that we have energy strands, that we are connected to other people in our world all the time. And so some of these are things we came into this lifetime with. This might be with your parents, with siblings, with people that you know you've had many, many lifetimes with. They might also be somebody like the cashier at the grocery store who you had a nice conversation with. And now there's sort of been an energy that's connected between you, as well as every relationship you've had, friendship you've had, all of the people in your life at any point in time. We often have energy strands that connect us. And they're like individual, that's not the right word. They're sort of like strings. That's probably my best way to explain them. They're like strings that are invisible between people and energies and even people who've passed. And as the more work I've done on this, the more I acknowledge that there are invisible strands of energy, even between myself today and who I was as a child or a teenager, different versions of myself and different timelines. And I've acknowledged that when I'm willing to look at this and cut those cords, then I can have a different reality. So I first started using this when I realized that every time a good friend of mine would feel anxious or sad, I would feel it in my body. And doing the sort of regular, like, okay, return that to her, that's not mine, wasn't really cutting it. And what I realized is that we had all these energy strands connecting each other from not only this lifetime, but other lifetimes. And that I could cut those strands that were causing the anxiety, the depression, the whatever upset was, and not lose my relationship with her. It wasn't like we had one big strand. We have all of these things connecting us. And so that when I would get rid of all the ones that didn't serve me, then I no longer was feeling what she was feeling in my body. And it gave me a lot more peace. And it actually improved our relationship quite a bit. And I've acknowledged that with my parents, with my husband, with other people I have relationships with. So I think a lot of times people are like, oh, you need to do cord cutting, meaning you need to like sever the relationship with that person. But that's not what cord cutting really is. We have so many different types of cords that connect us to people. And some of them are light and positive and made of bright white light, and they're wonderful and lovely. And those can stay. should you choose to leave them there. And you're never going to cut anything that you're going to be like, oh, I wish I hadn't cut that. It doesn't work that way. This is always for your highest good. And even if you choose to cut a cord with somebody and then later you're like, oh, like, I don't know, I still want that person in my life in whatever way, it yeah, you have that choice, that energy reattaches. It's not even like a cognitive thing you have to think about. It just sort of happens. That also being said, that when you cut cords, if you continue to ruminate on that person, call that person, talk to them, some of those negative cords might also reattach. But that to say, you always have choice and you can't really screw it up. So the way I usually do this with people is I will have them visualize the person that they'd like to cut cords from. And I really do find it helpful to do one person at a time. You can do like a whole group of people, particularly if it's like an organization you'd like to cut cords from. Anything that can be considered like its own entity. So maybe you had a job and you want to cut cords from that organization. You could do it that way. But if you're looking at individual people or even yourself at a different age, like one thing at a time. So I ask people to visualize that thing in front of them, that person in front of them, and observe. Just close their eyes and observe. So, what strands of energy are connecting you? And you might notice you have a visual of some light things, some like strands that are lovely and fine. And then there might be other things that are like tattered rope or like chains or like dark clouds or like a spider webby type thing or even like a mist of sorts. Like it doesn't always show up in exactly like a string, and it can. And they might be different colors, they might be different textures. And I ask them to imagine themselves with a large sword or large pair of scissors and to go in and cut all of those energy strands that are not serving them anymore at this point. So anything that is dark, dingy, falling apart, any chain-like things, anything that feels icky, to go in and cut those. And a lot of them you'll find will cut with ease. Sometimes all of them will cut with ease. And then you're like, great, that's wonderful. And you can finish there. But sometimes there's ones that really hang on, or they don't seem to want to cut all the way through, or they feel more like, thick wire and they like won't move. That's where I have people like pull in their angels, their guides, to have to give them assistance, to have them come in and say, okay, everything that I cannot cut on my own, whether you're asking spirit, source, God, whatever you refer to there, or an angel, but some higher being to assist you in cutting the cords that are not serving you anymore at this point. And when you do that, you feel the release, and that other person feels that release too, even if they're not cognitively aware of what you're doing. We are all energy, and you're really communicating with that person's higher self. So you're letting go of all the negativity between you and that person, or anything that isn't serving you. So, anywhere you went through a trauma together or something, whether it was from this lifetime or another, and you're still connected in some way, when you cut those cords, now you have space and freedom. And for some people, they visualize the cords just kind of falling away. For other people, they sort of like go back into the person, like, and they just dissolve. For other people, they might leave like a hole. If you ever seen like an empty hole from cutting cords, just fill that hole with white light. And that allows healing from that space. Again, both for you and for that other person. And I have found this has given me so much space and freedom from any of like the relationships in my life that have sort of stuck me, the ones that hurt me at some point in my life, or somebody that I couldn't stop thinking about, or that, like I said, was always kind of feeling exactly what they felt. And also, it's improved a lot of my relationships. So there might be people that you do this with and you're like, I actually want that person out of my life. I'm good. I don't need to have them in my world at all anymore. And there might be other people that this actually improves your relationship because it's one of the ways that you can let go of old resentments. So I did this a long time ago with both of my parents separately, and it created so much more space and kindness and really actually improved our relationship a ton. My mom has since passed, so it's even given me space to have a better relationship with her spirit now. And with my dad, we have probably the best relationship we've ever had, certainly since I was a little kid, because all the old resentments and anger and everything else that we probably had towards each other, certainly on my end, dissipated. And now there's just space there. And any old resentment or anger I had towards him is gone. And it created this space of just like kindness and forgiveness and being able to be present with the person that somebody is today, not all the places that you're connected to from other points in your life. So, but that's, I guess, the gist of it with people. This works really well with exes. If you are still ruminating over why didn't that work out, or why did he leave me, or what if, if things had gone differently, what would my life look like if I had stayed with that person? Like all of those thoughts get in our way so much. And this is one of those tools that really helps let go of all of that. And it doesn't mean that you can't still have kind feelings towards somebody, even if you don't talk to them anymore. And even if you do, depending on who you're working with. So, the other thing I mentioned is you can do this with versions of yourself. If you have, you ever have the experience where you like walk into the house you grew up in and suddenly you're 15 again, or, whatever age was one of the harder ages for you, and you don't feel like yourself at your adult age? Part of that is the energy strands that you have connected to that house, that you have connected to the way that your parents were or your siblings were at that time, and also the way that you were at that time. And you can do a cord cutting with all of those things, with your house, with the energy in your house, with your family, and with you, of like, wow, I actually desire to cut the cords of who I was at that time. Again, not from unkindness, not from anger or resentment or regret or guilt or any of that. And you can now extend those positive strands, that white light, that love between you and your younger self, and actually really be there and heal that younger version of you and let go of anywhere you've held on to self anger, hatred, all the things that we do that prevents us from moving forward, that prevents us from having the life that we'd really like to have, because we're harboring these old angry feelings a lot of times at ourselves. And this gives us space to really love who you are today, as well as all the versions of yourself that you were that brought you here. So allow yourself that gift to really look at like, wow, there is healing available to the person that I was when I was X age and when I made this choice or that choice. And I'm going to cut all those negative cords too and allow yourself to have love towards you. Um, the other thing that you can really look at this is like other timelines. And this is where stuff gets even more woo. But as you know me, this is some of the places I really love to go and love to talk about things are like different timelines in your life and in past lives, and like wherever something like has like a sticking point for you, and it's like, okay, you have this image in your head and sometimes you might not even know what it is. It might be a just an object that makes you feel a certain way and you don't necessarily know why. There may be some timeline or dimension or lifetime that's connected to that. And you can also cut all of the energy strands connecting you, your body, who you are today to that timeline, whether it's from that object or whatever energy is brought up. I know this is a little more abstract, but I'm giving it to you because if you're on board with what I'm talking about, and you're like, I don't know why I have this reaction every time I see, I don't know, a basketball or whatever. Like a lot of times people have something that like brings something up for them. You can use this on that. And even if you're like, okay, whatever weird chords between me and the sport of basketball, I'm going to let go of those now. Fine. And you don't have to know where it came from, what's creating it, or any of that. You can just let it go now, cut all the strands between you and it. And now you have space. to have all of you. But this is one of those things that you'll be amazed at where you can use if you keep it in your back pocket of like, okay, what cords are here? What cords need to be severed? And if I didn't have to figure it all out, I just know I feel a certain way. Okay, whether it's a person, an experience, a place, you can cut those cords so that those energies are no longer affecting you in a negative way. But like I said, please acknowledge that you always have choice and you can do this for a million different things and you're never going to create a negative outcome. This is not something to ever be afraid of. And, I mentioned I did this with my mom who is passed. You can do this with people who no longer have bodies. So if you are still harboring old resentment towards somebody who has since passed away, you can connect to their energy still and the memory of them and do the same thing. Have them out in front of you and imagine cutting those cords, all the ones that are negative and anything that still feels positive and light and expansive, leave those there. People are so afraid of like losing the connection to loved ones once they've passed, but you don't and you won't because you have those positive connections. But you don't need to hold on to any of the anger, any of the resentment, any of the things that have kept you limited or even allowed you to not experience the gift that that person was to you. What I've found is the more I do this with people, the greater gratitude I have for everybody I've ever encountered in my life. Whether it's somebody that I had a lot of anger towards or a lot of hurt towards or from, I suppose, that like when I've done this, then I can let go of all of those icky energetic places that have kept me in that state of negativity with that person and allowed me to have gratitude for the part that they played in my life. And even if that's a person I don't ever want to talk to again, I don't want to see again, I don't want anything to do with because for whatever reason, right? But I can still have gratitude for the part that they played. But as long as I'm holding on to resentment, as long as I'm holding on to old feelings, old anger, it's not ever going to give me the space and the freedom to function from the higher vibration of gratitude. Because anywhere you're functioning from anger, resentment, rage, hate, pain, all of those are low vibrations. So when you're functioning from those with any one person, with an organization, with um, a time in your life, even you keep yourself in a lower vibration, which keeps you stuck from and doesn't allow you to manifest the life that you'd really like to have. So it kind of keeps you in that low space. But when you cut cords with all of these people, all of these experiences, that are keeping you in an energy that doesn't belong to you and isn't authentic to you and isn't actually who you are, then you allow your vibration to raise higher to a space of peace, a space of gratitude, a space of expansiveness where you can have joy and have appreciation for everything that's ever occurred in your world without all of that negative energy that brings you down. So, it's funny because this is a topic I talk about with clients a lot, and I almost forget how valuable it is until somebody says to me like, "Oh, you're in a weird space with that person, just cut the cords." And I'm like, "Right. I know this tool. This works so well." And this isn't like now you need to sit down and have a 30-minute ritual thing. I will do this for 5 minutes tops, maybe 3, and just close my eyes, visualize the person in front of me, visualize all the weird chords that are not serving me or them, and take that large scissors and cut all of them, or take a sword, whatever you want to imagine, a sharp object that would cut through all of them. And anywhere something gets stuck or weird, I ask Archangel Michael to come in and help me to cut that cord and truly let that person go in whatever way is required. And then I imagine them walking away from me so that they like walk away. Sometimes it's like kind of down a hill and out of view. And they leave, and I have peace, and they have peace. There's no negativity or animosity. It's just like, okay, everything that was needed to be cut because it was no longer serving us, everywhere we've created a connection here that was negative or at a low vibration. Now we can let that go and you can go on and live your life and I can go on and live my life, and we're no longer negatively affected by each other, which allows us both to have more peace and more joy in our lives, which is what I think everybody is asking for. So it is such an amazing tool to have in your pocket, and hold on to this and listen to this podcast again if you need to, anytime that comes up. And really, it's just taking a few moments to just visualize this and know that it's working. Like, know that, like, you are energetically connecting to from your higher self to their higher self, and you're letting those all of those cords go, so that now you can both go on free from whatever that negativity was between you. So I hope this was helpful. If you have questions about this, please reach out and let me know. My desire is for us all to have a wild enthusiasm for living, right? To have more joy on the planet. And this is one of those tools that I have found has given me so much more space, has decreased any anxiety, any fear, any anger, any sadness, like all of those energies that have come up that are dragging me down. When I remember that I have this tool, it changes it so fast and into the future. It's not only a tool for in the moment, it because you're energetically severing the negative strands, it carries forward. So it really does give you that space sort of forever after, unless you choose to reattach those negative cords, in which case you're not wrong. Just acknowledge it and do it again. It's okay. So I hope this was helpful. I adore you. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope to see you sometime somewhere soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye bye.